As of today, I'm officially halfway through my Sub-3 in Philly marathon training block, and I'm back with the fuzzy microphone to give an update of how these first 8 weeks have gone with my training, as well as where I believe my fitness is at currently. So let's get right into it. So I wanted to begin by going into the first 8 weeks of my training. I'm gonna highlight 3 specific workouts where I'll dive a little deeper into kind of where I think it's telling for my overall fitness. But I'll just kind of give a general view of what my training has looked like so far. So as you can see, training started on the 31st of July. I started at roughly 48 miles with an 8:48 minute average. You can see here that I did the Ann Arbor Twilight 5K. That wasn't really part of the plan with the training. It did land on the day that I had a progression run. So the way the progression runs work, you do 60 to 75 minutes easy or however many it's scheduled. And then the last 10 to 20 minutes are at a faster pace. So what I did was basically shorten the easy run to be a warm up. So I did like a 50-minute run as a warm up. And then I did the actual 5K. And then as you can see here, again, week 2, 46.85 miles. So a little less. But again, another progression run, all easy runs, roughly a 9:04 minute mile average for week 2. Week 3, similar. You see all easy runs with a progression run. And then again, an 8:56 minute mile average for the entire week, 52.6 miles for that week. Week 4 was my first deload week. So I talked about these in a previous video, how every 4 weeks, the McMillan training plan has a deload week, where you basically reduce the overall volume and intensity of your runs to kind of deload and de-stress your body so that you can then go into 3 more weeks of heavy workouts, heavy running, and add more volume to your training. And like I said, so then every 4 weeks out of those 16 weeks, you basically take a deload week. So week 4 was a deload week, which this was also the end of phase 1. So after this week, I went from just doing basically all easy runs with some progression runs to actual speed work and distance-based long runs. So again, here you go, 38.16 miles for week 4, a 9:10 minute mile average. Next week was where, like I said, I started actually doing the speed work and then doing distance-based long runs. So again, all timed easy runs looking at that zone 2 heart rate. I did my first speed workout of 400 meters. That was also a video I recently did. So you can go back and watch that video to see the workout itself. But it was a 12 by 400 meter repeat with 200 meter strides after that. And then I actually did a 14-mile long run for my first distance-based long run. That was at a 7:19 minute mile average. I did 56 miles for the week with an 8:15 minute mile average. Week 6, again, another speed workout. As you can see, I actually did switch my recovery days. This Tuesday was just an absolute crazy day. So I ended up last minute deciding to make it my recovery day and switching the days all around. I did a fartlek run, which as you can see, 12 to 15 1-minute surges. I believe I just did the 12 1-minute surges, roughly a 5K effort on those surges. And then a speed workout, 800 meters, 6 to 8 by 800 meters with a 400 meter recovery. I did 6 of the 800 meter workout to just make sure I'm not overstretching myself and doing too much. Long run, as you can see, 16 miles at that 8-minute mile average. And that rounds out to be 59.18 miles for the week at an 8:09 minute mile average. You will notice there is a trend down in my mileage. That's partly due to the fact of adding speed work. So I'm just doing faster reps, which is going to overall adjust the average of my minute mile. But I will also say that as I've been going through the training, I have been noticing my easy runs are getting faster in that zone 2, as well as just my fitness is getting better. So I'm starting to see those times go down and my minute mile average be relatively faster compared to that first week where I'm running basically 9-minute miles. I'm now down to roughly an 8:30 to 8-minute mile average for my easy runs in that zone 2. Week 7, which is last week, and this is where I kind of want to get into, like I said, a few of the runs that I think will highlight where my fitness may be at 8 weeks. Again, as you see, easy runs, there was an optional fartlek on Wednesday. I did do that fartlek. I did the 10, I believe, of the 1 minute at the 5K effort. And then as you can see, I also moved my rest day. Again, another week that was just crazy with 2 kids, one of them being 7 months old. It can be hard to be exact every single week in terms of using Sunday as the rest day. So this day I did Monday as the rest day. So then I did basically the entire week and then a back-to-back. So it was almost like a 12-day cycle before I actually rested again. But the other workout I did, Speedwork for week 7, cruise intervals, 1K repeats. I did 8 of those with 200-meter recovery and then 100-meter strides as well. But the workout or run I really want to start to highlight and looking at the ones I'm going to deep dive a little bit more is the progression run. It was a 90-minute thirds progression run. So the way you'll see here with the workout builder, 30 minutes, 7:49 to an 8:30 minute mile, and then 30 minutes at a 6:44 to 7:44, and then the last 30 minutes, 6:15 to 6:31 for that progression run. So as you can see, I did 130 minutes at 12.72 miles with a 7:05 minute mile pace. Elevation, 579 feet. And as you can see here with my splits, I started at roughly that 8:16 and then slowly progressed down to that 7:44. And then as you'll see, I finished with a 6:25, 6:15, 6:18, and then a 6:15. So I held the last few miles all within that 6:30, sub 6:30 down to that 6:15. And when you actually look at the heart rate for that, you'll see I have an average heart rate of 158 BPM over the entire run. And as you can see with my heart rate in the 620s, I got a 176, 171, 170. Like I was averaging roughly like a 174 to 176 heart rate, and then kind of spikes there with the 180, which that you will see that with heart rate when you're focusing on your heart rate for runs. You're going to have moments where it spikes because you may be going uphill and you're trying to hold a steady pace, as I was here. So you may see some slight decline in your pace as well as a spike in your heart rate. But the overall focus, especially what I'm kind of focusing on when I'm doing these runs, is the focus was pace, but I wanted to make sure that my heart rate wasn't staying elevated once I got over like a slight hill that I might be running in terms of elevation. I wanted to make sure that my heart rate was going back down to that 170 range in these moments of like spikes where you see 182, but then it drops back down to 175. And then it kind of goes back up. So the whole idea with these is, like I said, just focusing on making sure that that heart rate drops back down and doesn't stay elevated or then continue to rise beyond that, because that most likely means that I am going beyond my limits and maybe pushing myself a little too hard. So that in and of itself, like I said, is a telling that my fitness is going in the right direction, because I'm holding paces well beyond what I plan on running the Philly Marathon in, and I'm still only holding like a 174 to 176 BPM average over the span of running those 6:15s for the last 3 miles, basically. So we'll jump back over into Final Surge and go into week 8. As you can see, there's easy runs with optional strides. As you can see, I did those strides. 8 to 10, I believe I just did the 8 of the strides at roughly like a 1 mile to 5K. It's almost a sprint, but not really a sprint. And then I did a goal pace. So I did 2 miles and then an 8 mile at marathon pace, which for anyone who is curious, the marathon pace I've set that basically spits out all the paces for these workouts. I'm looking at running a 6:40 minute mile average. What I wanted to do, or the philosophy behind that, was giving myself a 10-second buffer for that 6:50, because I want to go a little faster than just hitting 3 hours exact. I want to be a little under that 3 hour. So training with a 10-second buffer gives me the ability to kind of turn it up a little bit if I need to. My race strategy is to start behind the sub 3 hour pace group and then slowly pick up the pace and hopefully negative split after those hills. So at mile 16, when the hills kind of dissipate for the Philly Marathon, hopefully pick it up a little bit, catch the 3-hour pace group, and then hopefully pass them. That's the race plan. We'll see what happens on race day, but either way, so I did 8 miles at that 6:40 minute mile pace, and then 2 mile cool down. I want to go into this workout as well, because this is a kind of another one I want to focus on where I just had a weird day. I cannot explain it. So I did 12 miles, 1 hour, 25 minutes, basically 1 hour, 26 minutes at a 7:09 minute mile average. As you can see, it was already titled, This is a Weird One. And that's primarily because if you actually look at my splits and then my heart rate, so you'll see, did the 2 mile warm up, and then I held that marathon pace for all 8 miles. Highest being a 6:44, lowest being a 6:37 minute mile split. I did have some decent hills in here as well. You can see with the elevation. I tried to add some hills to the workout to prepare myself for Philly, because there's quite a few hills in the middle of Philly. And so I want to practice that elevation and feel what marathon pace feels like with some elevation added in. That may have been kind of a bad decision. And I'll kind of speak on that in a second. So as you can see, the heart rate, 173 BPM average. But if you actually look at my heart rate, I was running, I'll go back here. So I was in the 140s in the warm up. I picked it up for marathon pace. So as you can see at mile 2, my heart rate like immediately spiked to 190 and higher. Like for the first so many miles, you can kind of see here, I was basically high 190s, low 200s. Like the watch kept jumping between like 195 and 205, and it would not go away from that. No matter what I did, it didn't seem to ever drop. It almost was like it was in what some commenters have mentioned as cadence lock for Strava. Some people kind of commented on my Strava and said, hey, that might be cadence lock, or you might have just had a malfunctioning heart rate monitor or whatever, faulty gear. And partly that's because if you look, nothing changed. And then all of a sudden my heart rate just drops to 177 and is literally locked in at this 170. Like it was almost too perfect at how it locked in on the 170s. So this day in particular, if you look up here really quick, it was 81. So it was already unnaturally really warm for the day. Felt like 82 with the humidity. The temps have been dropping in Michigan to be a lot cooler. So this was like kind of an abnormally hot day, which is already going to mess with my heart rate, which I kind of knew. I wasn't too worried. I still didn't think I needed to adjust my paces based on heat. Maybe I should have, I don't know. The one thing that really has me questioning kind of the metrics or data on this is the fact that there's no way I could have been running a 205 heart rate this early on, 2 miles into an 8 mile, and be able to hold those paces steadily, like as you see here. There's just absolutely no way I could have done that with my heart rate being that high. So I'm assuming that the Polar Verity Sense, that armband that I was wearing, just was not reading my heart rate accurately. I was wearing arm sleeves for this because there's a good chance I'm going to wear arm sleeves on race day, and I wanted to see how the heart rate sensor kind of worked with the arm sleeves. I tightened the Verity Sense to make sure that it wasn't slipping with the arm sleeves, and I don't know if tightening it is what caused the issue, or if the arm sleeves, I don't know if that was pulling on I'm not sure what it was, but there's no way my heart rate was this high. And then just randomly, with no change in the weather, I was out in basically full sun exposure. So it wasn't like I was in shade all of a sudden, my body temp could go down. My pace never changed, and the elevation didn't really change. And all of a sudden my heart rate just locks in at 177, 178. Every once in a while it dropped down to 174. I'd see it at 175 on my watch, but it pretty much locked in. And then it kind of went, I had a little spike here, but it kind of locked in at that 170, which this in and of itself gives me a strong feeling that basically my watch or whatever had locked into cadence lock. And if you don't know what cadence lock is, it's basically where for some reason your watch will lock your heart rate into your cadence instead of your actual heart rate. So the optical sensor will no longer be reading your actual heart rate from your wrist or whatever, your chest strap. It'll be reading your heart rate as if your cadence, like the accelerometer in the watch. So you get these abnormally high heart rates for whatever kind of exercise you're doing. And this isn't the first time this has happened to me. I've even had it with a chest strap where I'll be doing an easy run and all of a sudden my heart rate like goes from 138 to like 170 out of nowhere and no changes. And I'm left there wondering like, okay, what the heck is going on? You stop and walk and the heart rate doesn't drop, or it'll drop because you're walking because it's got that cadence lock. But then as soon as you start running, it immediately jumps back up to the 170s. And there's basically nothing you can do except restarting your watch. So I'm going to chalk this weird one up to cadence lock. Because like I said, my heart rate just never dropped. Even in the easy run here, you see I really slowed down and my BPMs just basically stayed the same. And just like I said, it is a weird one. I'm pretty sure I never hit 205 with my heart rate. Like, yeah, my heart rate was elevated. Like I could feel it because I was running some hills. Like as you see here, I got 69 feet of elevation gain. That's accumulative over the mile 4. So there's some up, some down. But either way, I did feel the heart rate being high on those hills. But even when things kind of leveled out here, like I said, the heart rate shouldn't have been dropping or shouldn't have been like it was. And like I said, most likely 205 was not an accurate reading. There's no way I could have held this for the 8 miles at a 205. It's impossible. And another reason I believe that was just a weird one with some faulty equipment is if you come to the 16-mile long run, which was the run I did yesterday, you'll see 16 miles, 7:53 minute mile average, 2:06 hours. So this is another one I want to jump into Strava again just to show kind of why I believe that marathon pace workout was just a fluke. Is if you look here, 16 miles at 2:06, like I said, 7:54. But if you look at my splits, I pretty much started with the idea that I was going to run roughly an 8:30 and then slowly kind of cut down on that to finish somewhere at like a 7:30. That was the goal with the run. So as you can see, holding strong throughout. And then the last mile, I picked it up just because I don't really know. I just kind of picked it up and then realized I was going at marathon pace and a little above and I felt great. And so I decided to just kind of hold it, finished the 16th mile at a 6:20. So as you can see, was down in the mid 7s and then finished with that 6:20. One other thing I do want to highlight about this that will also kind of prove back to the point that the marathon workout was a fluke is that I did 898 feet of elevation over the entire run. I ran the exact same route, almost actually with more hills than what I did on the marathon pace workout. And one thing I want to highlight here, you look, my heart rate average was a 152. And even when you look at here, so when I'm running the 6s, I'm running a 642, 150. And then I got, let's see, 613, 169, 606, 177. Like I'm holding, like when I was looking at my watch during this run, my heart rate was basically hovering in the mid 170s the entire time I was holding that last mile at the 620 average. Yeah, I have little spikes here at the end of the 180. That's because I basically just did a kick. You can see there I was doing like a 5:38 minute mile. So I did a kick, and so the BPMs are going to get higher. But if you look, I'm running 630 to 615, 610, 606 with a 170 BPM. And now, obviously, with the equipment, there is going to be lag. These aren't going to be exactly accurate. But the idea I was getting when I was looking at the readout coming back from my watch was just that my heart rate was holding steady in that 170s while holding the basically what I would say is like a 620 to 630 minute mile average. There are little hills. There's some grade that I am doing in that last mile. So obviously, like I said, not everything's going to be perfect. There's going to be moments that I naturally slow down and then I'll speed up as I'm coming down the hill. My heart rate will then also elevate and then kind of come back down. What I'm looking for is more of that average, or how does my heart rate respond after I hit a hill at that 620. And this run was near flawless. Like I felt amazing. Even at the kick, I felt really good. I finished. I was tired, but I wasn't exhausted. Like I didn't feel like I went to the well or that I just did anything like, wow, I shouldn't have pushed it on that last mile. I kind of pushed on the last mile, like I said, naturally without really thinking about it. And it it just worked. Like everything was flowing. I felt super good. There wasn't anything I did different this time than that marathon pace workout. I actually made sure to do a lot of hills because, like I said, Philly's going to have a lot of elevation. And so I wanted to make sure that I was hitting these long runs with hills so that my muscles are trained for it and my body's just ready for that. And like I said, I took one gel an hour in. So there was nothing that I did that was unique to this run where I could say like, well, I did this differently. I did pretty much everything the same. The only difference is obviously I let my body kind of warm up more into that 620 finish, but still with the elevation I did and where my heart rate was, like I said, I think I'm going to just chalk it up to being a fluke as to why the marathon pace workout was just such an odd workout. All right, so now that I've actually gone through what the 8 weeks kind of looked like in terms of what I was training for each week, I want to go over into Garmin Connect to show you what my heart rate has looked like, as well as some other key factors on where I believe my fitness kind of is with this marathon training. I want to jump into what my average heart rate looked like over the past 4 weeks. You can do 6 months, but that's kind of pointless because whatever. I haven't been training that long for this marathon specifically, so we'll do the last 4 weeks. As you can see, the average is 145 BPM. One thing that is going to be kind of different about the 145 BPM is now that I am doing speed work and I'm doing my long runs focused more on pace than by heart rate, I'm still within that zone 2 of the like 133 to 148. But the 145 average being closer to the top end of that zone 2 is primarily just because, like I said, I'm doing speed work now, as well as long runs based on pace and no longer heart rate. So 145 BPM, I'm still on the zone 2 on the high end, but that's still positive that my heart rate, the average heart rate, is in a good place over the last 4 weeks. And the last thing I want to highlight when it comes to my 8 weeks of training is my race predictor. Now, one thing I do want to say about the Garmin race predictor is just the fact that I take this data with a grain of salt. Like, I'm not going to hold this predictor to like, this is where my fitness is at, but it is a positive thing or a positive metric to look at in terms of how have I been doing over the past 8 weeks, and am I trending in the right direction, which I believe I am from the readouts I'm getting from the race predictor. So as you can see, this is 4 weeks. So the 28th of August to the 24th of September, I started at a estimated marathon time of 3:29:11. So 3 hours, 29 minutes, 11 seconds. That's a 7 minute 59 second minute mile split. And currently, as of yesterday, this just updated. So as you can see, on the 21st of September, it was a 3:10:39, so 7:16. And then yesterday, it updated after that 16-mile long run. So the 22nd of September to 3 hours, 8 minutes, and 31 seconds. So that's a 7 minute, 11 second minute mile average over the distance of a marathon. So if I'm looking at this race predictor, as well as other key indicators I've been seeing with my paces, getting slightly faster in that zone 2 easy run, as well as how I've been feeling over my long runs and my workouts. When I look at the race predictor and the trending projection with 8 weeks left, in the last 4 weeks, I've basically covered 20 minutes or cut 20 minutes off of my prediction marathon time. And I have a feeling that in the last 8 weeks, I will be able to get my fitness to a place where the Garmin race predictor will be under the 3 hour threshold. Where that lies, who knows? And like I said, it's not a full-on great predictor. It just helps paint a larger picture of, like I said, are the metrics and is the data trending in the right direction to show me that what I'm doing is working and I don't need to make any adjustments. And so, like I said, when it comes to all the different data points I've been looking at over the last 8 weeks, I can confidently say that I think my training is going in the right direction and trending towards doing a sub-3 in Philly. As long as I continue to stay consistent with my training, don't burn myself out or not listen to my body. As long as I listen to my body and stay consistent and continue to do the work, I should show up to Philly ready to run a sub-3 hour marathon, which is the whole goal of running that sub-3 in Philly.